Time once again for the Red, Gold, and Bold podcast with you as always. Chadiha, McDowell, Petro, talking some Chiefs football here. The Super Bowl is over. What are the takeaways from it? Does the AFC now go through the New England Patriots? Do the Chiefs need to start impersonating the Pats and Seahawks? What can they do to be more effective in that way? Do the Oddsmakers have it right with the Chiefs? Many teams, Seattle, the Rams, Baltimore, Buffalo, Green Bay, the Chargers, Eagles, all rated ahead of the Chiefs when it comes to the odds. Parity in 26 was the rule of the day. Is that going to be what we see again next year? A wide, diverse field. Andy Reid's age, 67 years old. He'll be 68 when the season starts. Is that a problem? Running back, some free agency. Can the Chiefs afford a quality one? How about their pass rushers? Time to start looking at a different type. We're talking about it right now on the Red, Gold, and Bold.
You are listening to the Red, Gold, and Bold podcast, the most in-depth analysis of the Kansas City Chiefs on planet Earth, breaking down the Chiefs like no one else can. Red, Gold, and Bold is hosted by Jeff Chadiha, Sam McDowell, and Soren Petro. Jeff Chadiha is a senior columnist and on-air personality for the NFL Network and NFL.com. Sam McDowell is a columnist for the Kansas City Star. Soren Petro is the afternoon drive host of the program on Sports Radio 810 WHB in Kansas City. The Red, Gold, and Bold podcast is proudly brought to you by Gann Asphalt and Concrete, Kansas City's nationally recognized full-service paving and pavement maintenance contractor, making parking lot problems disappear in Kansas City since 1994. Free consultations, no commissions, in-house crews, and every project comes with a written warranty. Find them online at GannAsphalt.com or call 816-484-3338. Gann Asphalt and Concrete, one contractor, all things parking lot. Now, here are the hosts of the Best Chiefs podcast, Jeff Chadiha, Sam McDowell, and Soren Petro.
Thank you, Curtis. Off and running here. The Super Bowl is over. What do the Chiefs take away from it? Let's start. Is it that the Patriots are now the big boy in the AFC? Jeff, are you ready to say, even though they didn't look very impressive against the Seahawks, that everything in the AFC, the road goes through New England?
Well, I wasn't saying that before the Super Bowl started, so I'm not going to say it now. I thought Denver blew a great chance to beat them in the AFC Championship game if Bo Nix had been healthy. I thought Buffalo probably would have beat them if they had played in the postseason. I thought Jacksonville was a better team. And so a lot of things fell into place for New England, but the biggest thing I saw as we got deeper into the postseason was the quarterback wasn't playing at a high level, and that's always a concern. They did a great job with the pieces they had and the chemistry and the coaching. And Drake did make some plays, made the plays they had to make when they had opportunities earlier in the playoffs. But no, I think that when next season starts, they have some money to spend. They'll make some improvements, but I still feel like the team I just mentioned, and probably the Ravens in there, the Chiefs have some work to do as well. But there's probably 3 or 4 teams I put ahead of them right now.
Okay, the Pats, pretty unimpressive, right? They got there, Sam, but they also are just in year 1 of the program. Right, so they're going to get a second year to try to put everything together. Are they the team to beat, or just the team that was lucky to get there?
Yeah, I mean they were a team that benefited from a really easy schedule. I mean, they go 1-1 against teams above 500 this year. I think they played
lots of the Raiders.
Yeah, I mean, I think they also beat like 4, 8, and 9 teams. So there's a little bit of preferable selective endpoints there. But still, I mean, they only played the Bills. Bills were the only team they played that finished above 500. And then you look at their playoff route, they did get a good win against the Chargers. C.J. Stroud was awful in the snow in New England. Then they get the Broncos without Bo Nix. Then they play a real team and they get destroyed. And to me, what's going to be most interesting about the Patriots is that Andy Reid says this all the time, too, is that the second year for a quarterback is really important. All your film's out there. Can you still have that same success? And if teams adjust to you, are you good enough to adjust back? Do you have more than one way to beat a defense? I feel like that jury is still out on Drake May because of the quality or lack thereof of defenses he played this year. It wasn't, their schedule was almost twice as easy as the next easiest schedule in the NFL when you look at the quality of defenses that they played against this year. So I just think, I mean, look, they did beat the bad teams other than what Jeff said, the Raiders, which was in the opening week. And you can only beat who's on your schedule, but it just doesn't give me a lot of confidence that they're going to beat a lot of good teams next year.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think they've got work to do. We've got the parity part of things coming up here in a little bit. And, I think New England was just the benefactor of a lot of people being down, right? All the quarterbacks were out. The Bills should have taken advantage of it. This should have been Josh Allen's Super Bowl trophy that he was waving in the air, and they blew it. I mean, I think it's as simple as that. And you mentioned it, I think, Jeff, you were the one who talked about the Broncos. I mean, yeah, they too. If they're not hurt, this was their spot to step in and steal one. And I think that's what you got to do when you have Hall of Fame quarterbacks all over the places. They fall down, you better be ready to grab it. And nobody did. I don't know that I'm ready to say the Chiefs are where the road goes through the Chiefs. I think it's very much to be determined. I think right now, I don't know, I guess maybe Buffalo, because I think you usually do. Everybody straightens up and flies right, generally speaking, under a first-year coach. But this isn't a new coach coming in from outside, so I think that could still implode. I don't know. I think it's wide open. I don't know where the road goes in the AFC. I think the Broncos have more free agents to deal with than maybe people realize. It's wide open. I mean, I think that's the best way to put it. It's at least right now it appears wide open. We'll see what it looks like when we get around to opening day. Does that make sense, Jeff?
Well, yeah. Well, that and a lot of these teams that didn't make the playoffs last year are going to be trying to get back into it. And so not only is it wide open from the standpoint of the teams that were in it, probably blew a great opportunity to get to the Super Bowl, but you have to figure, again, Baltimore was competing to get in the playoffs. Buffalo obviously got in the playoffs. I don't know if you could trust Cincinnati to figure things out. Can the Chiefs turn things around in a year? But there's some legitimate teams out there. You say, well, they have a shot to be in this. Indianapolis faded down the stretch. They were an 8-2 team. Does Daniel Jones stay healthy? And that changes the complexion of that. So, yeah, it's wide open. But I think that what makes the AFC interesting is a lot of good coaches, a lot of smart GMs, and a lot of opportunity. I think what we saw from the Super Bowl was that it's easier to get things figured out because you don't have to have a great quarterback to win a championship right now. You just have to have a great roster. And the teams that can do that have a great chance.
Hang on. That's an interesting point. Because Sam, you look at it the same way that Jeff just said, that you don't have to have a great quarterback, you just have to have a great roster? Or are we at a period where all the great quarterbacks are feeling the pain of their contracts and there was an opportunity? Now here comes the second wave. There's finally some young quarterbacks on first contracts that are good. Is the recipe really changed?
I think in the AFC, it's more about the fact that there just was not great football in the AFC this year. I mean, the Patriots get there because of schedule. I mean, the Broncos had a terrific record, but the Broncos were not a great football team. They were good. They were not a great football team. Bo Nix did not have a great year. I mean, you look at the quarterbacks that the Broncos beat, and they were squeaking by Jackson Dart and Justin Fields and Cam Ward. I mean, the Broncos were not a great team. Lamar Jackson misses a large portion of the year. The Chiefs are down this year. And to me, it sort of became this just snowball effect on, okay, this is why it's the Bills' turn this year. And it's why still coming away from this Super Bowl, 3 games, but 4 weeks after the Bills lost, the biggest takeaway for me still is Josh Allen and the Bills blew it, because this should have at least been their turn to get there. The Seahawks are a great team. They're a Super Bowl championship caliber team in most years. They are a good team. But the Bills should just be kicking themselves for the fact that they weren't the team playing against the Seahawks.
Yeah, I would agree. And they're not going to get it back. What are the takeaways, Jeff, from, the Seahawks, from the Patriots? Both teams young, defensive. You mentioned cheaper quarterbacks. I mean, that's not going to be the recipe for the Chiefs anytime soon. What are the other things they can take away?
Well, I mean, I think youth does matter. I think on your station they were talking about Seattle, like not having a single offensive player who wasn't drafted before 22 or starter.
Yeah, they're basically all their offensive players. I think all their offensive players were either drafted or even signed within the last 4 years.
Yeah, and so I think that's a big takeaway: getting younger, turning your roster over, having a vision for what you want. Mike McDowell came in there and said, "This is how I want to play defense, and it's not the way Pete Carroll played defense. So I need some different bodies in here. I need more athletic safeties, and I need a lot more defensive linemen who can do certain things. I need a guy like Ernest Jones, a Swiss Army knife linebacker." But I think the thing that the Seattle Seahawks could teach the Chiefs is just be willing to take some big risks here. They traded DK Metcalf. They traded Geno Smith, guys who have played well for them this past year. They took chances on DeMarcus Lawrence. They took chances on Leonard Williams, guys who people thought, they're kind of done, Cooper Kupp. And so they kind of glued and pasted this thing together with some chemistry pieces. But I think that they built a team that was that had great – when you're around those guys, and I was around those guys this past week, you really felt like they're a team. And that's why they won. It wasn't because they had to have a great quarterback. And the point I'm making about the great quarterback is I know we've believed in that for so long, but the great quarterback's going to get you some holes in your roster that can't be fixed. Seattle had great special teams play. As much as it was about defense, their punter was phenomenal. Their field goal kicker was phenomenal. Their return game was phenomenal. And that stuff matters when you're trying to win a championship.
Yeah, for sure. One of the things I think you mentioned, like they shipped off DK Metcalf. There weren't any problem children on the Seahawks, were there?
No.
I mean, like that's one of the things as I look at the Chiefs, and whether it's AJ Brown or some, George Pickens, and AJ Brown didn't advance to the playoffs and Pickens didn't make it. But, I was kind of the thought process, Sam, stop drafting guys that are problems. Like if you want to go out and get a problem, like if you want to go get AJ Brown, you can't bring him into a wide receiver room with Xavier Worthy and Rashee Rice. Like he's not even an option for you to go. But if you had everybody was if everyone in-house, your guys were all part of the program, nobody was out of line, then you could bring in that guy and expect that room and the offense and everyone else to say, that's not how we do things here. But when you got a bunch of, clowns, frankly, that you not a bunch, but when you've got some that you've drafted, you can't bring in the high maintenance wide receiver when you've already drafted at least one and one that doesn't seem real motivated. That's my opinion of Xavier Worthy to really perfect his craft. I can't bring AJ Brown and plop him into that room. I think one of the things that I look at Seattle, I like what Jeff said. They're a team. I think they're a team because they brought in the right kind of guy for their team as well.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't watch that game and think that the Chiefs needed a wide receiver. I watched that game and said the Chiefs need a pass rush.
Well, my point isn't to go get AJ Brown. My point is you can't bring in certain types of players because you already have culture problems that you drafted, and Seattle does not seem to have that. Everybody is on board, and you're not trying to figure out how we're going to get by 6 weeks without a guy. You know what I mean? Like they don't have those problems.
Yeah, and I do think some of that comes with an up-and-coming team that hasn't won before, but it's trying to win for the first time. I mean, I remember in baseball clubhouses walking in, I actually talked to Mike Matheny when he was with the Cardinals as the Cardinals manager one day, and his locker room just seemed so loose. And I want to say they were like 40-20 or something ridiculous to start the season. And I asked him about just how loose they were, and he said, "We're winning. Like it's A then B rather than vice versa." But just to get back to the pass rush part of this, though, that when you look at the last 8 Super Bowls, there's been only 2 formulas to win in the last 8 Super Bowls. It's been pressure the quarterback with 4 players or have Patrick Mahomes on your roster.
Yeah.
That's the only 2 formulas that have won Super Bowls over the last 8 years. The Seahawks pressured 48% on non-blitzes. Like their blitzes got home. I thought Witherspoon should have been the MVP. Jeff, I don't know if you have a vote in that, but I would have voted. Did you vote Witherspoon? Yeah. I would have voted Witherspoon for that.
Kenneth Walker.
But the blitzes got home. But the real story of the game was they didn't need to blitz to get home. 48% pressure rate without blitzing. Look at this. Look at the Eagles, the way they beat the Chiefs last year. They did not blitz a single time, and they destroyed that game up front. The 2 previous games are won by the Chiefs. The one before that, the Rams destroyed Joe Burrow. Aaron Donald wrecked that game plan. A 40% pressure rate when not blitzing. The Bucs over the Chiefs is the year before. We know the story of that game. Then you've got the Chiefs winning the previous one. I mean, those are the 2 formulas. And to me, it's not just like, this is a cool statistic, a cool feature of it. It should drive the Chiefs' priorities because they have more than one. You mentioned wide receiver. I think they need a wide receiver. We all know they need a running back. But as they're sitting there getting dangled Jeremiah Love and people are talking about him at number 9, look at what's winning these championships, because it's pass rushes is what's – you've got good quarterbacks. All those teams I mentioned that got beat by these pass rushes, it's Mahomes twice. It's Drake May. Jared Goff had played well for the Rams. I mean, these are good quarterbacks. Game plans are just getting destroyed by pass rushes, though.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest takeaway from them is that they don't have youth. I think the roster's got to get younger, and they've got to get better at getting after the quarterback. It goes without saying. Let's take a break. We come back. We'll get into the odds. Do the odds makers have it right? We'll do that after you hear from Gann. Gann Asphalt and Concrete, proudly serving the greater Kansas City area. Nationally recognized full-service paving and pavement maintenance contractor. Locally owned and making parking lot problems disappear in Kansas City since 1994. Let Gann educate you about the most cost-effective way to solve your parking lot problems. Free consultations, no commissions, in-house crews. Every project comes with a written warning. Gann Asphalt keeps your parking lot safer and helps you and your business avoid unnecessary delays and costly expenses. Find Gann online at GannAsphalt.com or call 816-484-3338. Gann Asphalt and Concrete. One contractor, all things parking lot. Northland Injury Law, Kansas City's Google 5-star rated personal injury lawyers, serving KC for more than 40 years, voted Kansas City's #1 accident lawyers, helping people with serious injuries from car accidents, work accidents, falls, and other personal injuries. Northland Injury Law doesn't get paid unless they get money for their client. Don't wait, get compensated now. If you have a case, text HURT to 22222. That's HURT to 22222, or call 816-400-HURT. That's 816-400-4878. The choice of a lawyer is an important one and should not be based solely upon advertisements. All right, the odds makers. Yeah.
So that whole last segment, I had an echo in my head, and I realized that I was also watching our YouTube live as we were broadcasting live. I was sitting there like stumbling over my words, like, what's going on here? But also watching our YouTube, and so all you guys on YouTube, I appreciate it. I was there with you for the last 20 minutes without even realizing it.
Yeah, well, the other thing I'll tell you is that like the Twitter feed didn't go out, and I don't know how to like. I looked at something while we were talking, and I'm like, maybe this will do it. And I'm like, nope, I guarantee I'll shut the whole thing down if I do it. So, if anybody wants to retweet us, go for it. I've hit the YouTube feed and other things, but our Twitter feed, I don't know. It says it's live. I don't see it out there on mine, so. I apologize for that if that's how you usually get us, if you end up getting us via the podcast a little bit later on. But there it is. Kept hearing an echo. Nice, Sam. I like it. Let's talk about the odds. Right now, the Chiefs are nowhere near – well, I don't want to say they're nowhere near the top, but they're not at the top. Seattle, 7.5 to 1. Rams, 8 to 1. Bills and Ravens, 12 to 1. Packers, 13 to 1. Chargers and Eagles, 15 to 1. This came from FanDuel. Where I got those numbers. Then the Lions and Chiefs at 16 to 1. That means that there are 7 teams with odds that are shorter than the Kansas City Chiefs to win the Super Bowl next year. Jeff, is that accurate?
Yeah. I mean, I think it's probably where they belong. They're going to get a bump just because of Mahomes, and maybe his health maybe is dinging them a little bit, keeping them a little bit lower. But yeah, I mean, anytime you have a quarterback like that and a track record like you've had, people will give you the benefit of the doubt that you can turn it around faster. But I mean, those teams that are ahead of them have a lot of strengths and have better rosters, to be honest with you. Certainly they're all in the playoffs. That's a factor. And I think, look, it's outside of Mahomes, we really don't know what you can trust on this team for next year. I mean, the offensive line should be okay. But aside from that, the weapons, Travis Kelce, Chris Jones, McDuffie, there's a lot of question marks. And so I want to see what they have. Maybe it's a different conversation in May, in June. But right now I think that's probably fair.
Fair odds, Sam?
Yeah, I think it is. I mean, every offseason, we talk plenty about Patrick Mahomes, and we should. I mean, he's the key to this team. But we're analyzing him in like this micro analysis sort of way. And really the bulk of our analysis has been what's around him, because Patrick Mahomes has been the guy you can count on. And to Jeff's point, what's around him is changing. But the other thing is, Mahomes is a bigger question mark entering this season than he ever has been since his first year as a starter in Kansas City. Is you don't know what you can depend on with Patrick Mahomes. And so that alone should drop the Chiefs' odds in terms of a Super Bowl. I will say these odds are pretty close when you read them off. You know, I mean, you got the Rams and Seahawks are out front, but the Chiefs aren't a long way away from Baltimore and Buffalo. I think it was you mentioned were 12-1. And what else stood out to me about those odds weren't just the Chiefs, but two teams that aren't above them. New England and Denver. New England and Denver are behind them in those odds.
Yeah, I think that's a huge part of it. Are they fair? They're more than fair. In fact, I think they're probably wrong. Like, I wouldn't mind if the Chiefs odds were here after they answer a couple of the questions, but you know they've got a lot of holes on their roster. They've got a quarterback that's coming back from an ACL. I think, we all think he's going to work hard and has got as good a chance to come back as anybody ever. But he's going to be coming back from an ACL. And by the way, the history of the Chiefs is they sit and tell everyone that anyone coming back from an injury is fine the first year. And then the second year, they tell everyone, well, he was just coming off surgery last year. And so there's that history to it. And they won 6 games. 6. I mean, like, I think if anything, this is charitable. Like, I know that's not what people in Kansas City want to hear, but how do you look at a team that went 6-11? You want to say, well, that was Mahomes went down. Okay, fine, 6-8. You had a 6-8 football team with their quarterback. Now their quarterback is going to be 31 years old, not 25. He's coming off of surgery, and they've got question marks. Like, yeah, I think this is all based upon the fact that they are counting on Patrick Mahomes and some of the things we're going to get to. Coach is getting older, right? They changed out the offensive coordinator. They clearly said, okay, well, we're not getting what we want there. So, I mean, yeah, I think this is more than fair. Right? Like I think if anything, they're making a mistake. Like, I wouldn't mind if they were lower and then okay, Mahomes is doing this, this, and this. Okay, I'm going to slide him up. Right? Oh, they just made this deal, or oh, here's their draft. Okay, here up they come. Right? Like I wouldn't mind that, but yeah, I think this shows the power of Patrick Mahomes. I think because
well, you wonder like how much people thinking, okay, they're going to have a softer schedule next year, even though they're going to play the NFC West, but they're going to be playing with a third place schedule now. You also wonder if people look at what happened with San Francisco, who had a tough year a couple of years ago, and then they rebounded this year. They didn't make the playoffs. They had a ton of injuries, and all of a sudden now they're back. Even with injuries this year, they're a playoff team. And so, I'm not. You guys are the betting experts in this. I always wonder how odds get made, but yeah, I do feel like nationally there's probably a greater sense of, oh, this was just a one-off. This team is not in dire straits. Where sitting here and knowing the kind of the what's in the weeds, it's a lot more of a treacherous path they have to go down.
49ers got to bounce back with, I think the second easiest schedule. That helped in the Chiefs.
By far the easiest in the NFC. Yeah. And the other thing is the Chiefs actually don't get a kiss from a third place schedule this year, because you look at it, they're playing the AFC East, right? So they're already playing the Patriots, Bills, Dolphins, and Jets. Their added teams are the third place team in the AFC North is the Bengals. You'd rather play the Steelers, the first place team, than the Bengals next year. The third place team in the South is Falcons. I think the Colts in the AFC, which is you'd prefer to play the Colts, but the Colts were 8-2 before their quarterback got hurt. And then yes, you play the Falcons, who I bet I assume are the favorites next year in that division, perhaps. And the betting mark, I haven't checked it yet, but
they close strong. Yeah.
And as Chadiha said, the NFC West, which had 3 teams that were maybe the 3 best teams in the NFC.
They might have been the 3 best teams in the NFL, by the way, when you look back at it. Yes. They might have been the 3 best teams in the NFL this year. And you're going to have to play all 3 of those teams next year. So they actually don't even catch a break with the schedule.
How about, is parity going to be the reality, or do you see somebody emerging as the team to be? Jeff, is this?
I think it is. I mean, I think you're going to see this next year, because what's happened is offensive coaches are really in a tough spot. Every 7 to 10 years, you're going to see this happen, where the defenses catch up and they become dominant, And you've got to figure out as offensive coaches, how do you overcome that? Now, the RPO was the big thing when Mahomes showed up, and the mobile quarterback was the big thing. And now people have figured out how to defend those guys. And so once you had a lot more time to look at Josh Allen and Mahomes and Patrick Mahomes, and you've got the book on them, now it's just everybody's playing the Vic Fangio defense. All his guys are out across the league. Mike McDowell's a Vic Fangio guy. Jesse Minter's a Vic Fangio guy. All these guys are doing that stuff. And it's just sit back with two safeties deep and win with 4 up front, play a lot of zone, and make them grind. And there's just not enough great quarterbacks out there to overcome that. I mean, you have a lot of young guys. I mean, you think about all the quarterbacks outside of that class with Caleb Williams and Drake May, how many draft classes have had bombs at quarterback going back to like Jameis Winston, Marcus Mariota years? There's a lot of bad quarterbacks out there or mediocre quarterbacks. And so those guys have to grow up. And these guys who are great are struggling with salary cap issues. And so, yeah, I think it's going to continue to be parity.
Parity again next year, Sam?
Yeah, I mean, I see it more because by the way, I forgot the Bucks, I assume, are the favorites in the NFC South. Yeah, I mean, you think about the contrast between this conversation today versus this conversation 365 days ago. I mean, it's remarkable how different it is, because the three of us all would have been sitting here saying Chiefs are going to be good, Ravens are going to be good, Bills are going to be good. Why would you bet against any of those 3 teams? Because for whatever their problems, the quarterbacks have been great in those 3 spots, and they've been great regular season quarterbacks, and in one situation, a really, really great playoff quarterback. And those 3 teams are down, and they all are down for a reason. I mean, we've analyzed the Chiefs plenty. The Bills' defense, to me, is a major question next year. I mean, whatever you thought of Sean McDermott as a head coach, pretty good defensive mind for that team over the past decade. And the Ravens switched everything. So I just don't know what to expect exactly from Baltimore. I think Baltimore will certainly be better, but they were 8-9 a year ago. So when your premier teams have questions, yeah, I think that creates parity.
I think it's an interesting perspective. You know, if you're a fantasy player, a lot of the sites will show guys, you know, their 3-year average, right? Like, okay, yeah, he had a big year, a down year, but here's their 3-year average. Your point is really interesting, Sam, because last year, the 3-year average of the Chiefs was 14-3, slop around, but get it going and win a championship, and then 15-2. Now that 3-year average is now the slop around team that, yes, got it together and won a championship, but still was pretty sloppy for a lot of the year. Yes, a 15-2 team, but got trucked in the Super Bowl, and then a bad team. So it does, you know, when you drop off that 14-3 team that won the Super Bowl at the front of that rolling 3 years, they look, you know, less dominant. To your point,
they're 6-12 in their last 18 games.
Yeah. Oh, I think I'm agreeing with you wholeheartedly.
No, I know you are, but my point is, I don't think, like, it's almost hard to believe even when you say it. Even when, like me, you've been at all 18 of these games, you're like, the last 18 games, they've only walked away winners from 6 of those. And this doesn't at all count, but except for it adds to the narrative of it. They lost their 3 preseason games this year too. Only 6 of their last 21 games that they've actually stepped on the field have they walked away winning that game.
Yeah, this feels a lot like the early 2000s. I said this earlier in the year. This season felt like the 2000 Super Bowl when the Ravens beat the Giants. It was that kind of football being played, and you're seeing a lot of the similarities, because that was the year when all of a sudden Dan Marino was gone and Steve Young was gone and Troy Aikman was gone and Elway was gone. You just had a lot of quarterbacks. You know, Brett Favre was still there. Peyton Manning was there. Brady was a young guy, but there are a lot of teams in that space that were good teams, but not great teams, and were always playing for championships or winning championships. You know, whether that was McNabb's Eagle with Andy, Brad Johnson won a championship, or Scanner won an MVP. It feels like we're in that space again, where you got, you know, 4 guys who were elite, and then a whole bunch of quarterbacks who were okay. And it's all about defense and run game again.
Isn't that more enjoyable though? Like, to me, this is part of the fascination with the NFL. I mean, this is the NFL's advantage over other sports, is the construction of their league. The schedule usually does give a favor to the bottom feeders. The drafting difference in the order is tremendous. And then the fact that you've got a salary cap and you've got to pay the quarterback an absorbent amount of money if he's good. Like, this is why this league has the appeal that it does to all 32 fan bases.
Yeah. I think you're right. But we'll see if it isn't just the Seahawks win again or the Rams win again and then the Seahawks win and then it's the powers just being held over in a different spot. But on the AFC side, it definitely looks wide open. That's for sure. I don't think anybody disagrees with that. All right, I want to get into Andy Reid's age. We'll do it after you hear from our friends at Northland Injury Law. Northland Injury Law, Kansas City's Google 5-star rated personal injury lawyers, serving KC for more than 40 years, voted Kansas City's #1 accident lawyers, helping people with serious injuries from car accidents, work accidents, falls, and other personal injuries. Northland Injury Law doesn't get paid unless they get money for their client. Don't wait. Get compensated now. If you have a case, text HURT to 22222. That's HURT to 22222. Or call 816-400-HURT. That's 816-400-4878. The choice of a lawyer is an important one and should not be based solely upon advertisements. Gann Asphalt and Concrete, proudly serving the greater Kansas City area. Nationally recognized full-service paving and pavement maintenance contractor. Locally owned and making parking lot problems disappear in Kansas City since 1994. Let Gann educate you about the most cost-effective way to solve your parking lot problems. With free consultations, no commissions, in-house crews, and every project comes with a written warranty, Gann Asphalt keeps your parking lot safer and helps you and your business avoid unnecessary delays and costly expenses. Find Gann online at GannAsphalt.com or call 816-484-3338. Gann Asphalt and Concrete. One contractor, all things parking lot. Andy Reid is 67 years old. He'll be 68 before the season starts. Jeff, Mike McDonald, who won the Super Bowl, 38 years old. He beat Mike Vrabel, who's 50. Sean Payton is 62. He was in the conference championship game. Sean McVay is still 40. That's amazing. I think he just turned 42. He might have been 39 during most of the season this past year. Ben Johnson's 39. Liam Cohen's 38. There's plenty of 40s in there. 41-year-old DeMeco Ryans, 44 for Sirianni, Canales. Amongst the playoffs, it was starting to trend younger. There was only the other 62-year-old Jim Harbaugh, and the only other guys over 50. Vrabel at 50, Sean McDermott 51, and Mike Tomlin at 53. And McDermott and Tomlin don't have their jobs anymore. Yeah. So when does it start to be a problem? Andy Reid is the age he is.
Well, I look at the way. Well, I go back when I look at the way Seattle played and how they performed under Mike McDonald. I look at what McVay's been able to do. I do feel like you're getting a different kind of athlete coming into the NFL from college football than Andy was seeing back, 10, 15 years ago, even 5 years ago. I mean, there's just more money these guys are making, more entitlement. But I do think he's a phenomenal coach. But I do feel like the Rashee Rice stuff, the Xavier Worthy stuff, some of the decisions with the staff, I think when you're younger, you're just hungrier. And you're more aware of what guys are trying to get away with. And you kind of have your better feel for how to deal with the guy. And Andy wants to be the grandfatherly, never say anything in public about guys. I don't think that always plays with guys in today's world. I think you have to have a little bit of a different touch. I'm not saying it's a problem yet, but I easily could see if you get a few more Rashee Rices in the building, it could be problematic. I think Seattle is the way they are because they realize we don't want to have assholes around here. We don't have time for assholes. And I think Andy's the kind of guy who says, bring him in here. I'll make him work. I'll let him be himself and everything will be fine. I think that's a problem.
Sam, I mean, I love the point about the a-holes, Rashee Rice, but, Travis Kelce, had some issues in college. He was kicked off the team for a little while. Maybe he had some problems with penalties, but ended up being a guy that was certainly worth the investment. Is one of the leaders on the team. I think it's a great point. I would like to see it tightened up a little bit more myself. I think that would make the football team better. Is that because Andy Reid can't do it anymore at his age?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I guess I would say, to me, it's less about the age of the person than it is the age of the ideas. And these two things go hand in hand. I think one of the reasons that you have younger coaches that have success is because the reason they're young is because they've got to be innovative to stand out. And like Mike McDonald hadn't had success as a head coach in the NFL. The reason he had that job is because he stood out as a defensive coordinator in today's game. That's how he got that job. His success is recent in today's game. And a lot of times when you are an older coach, you've had the right to stick around, but it's a lot because of your past success. And a lot of what you're trying to do is ensure your stuff still works as opposed to finding the new and best way to make things work. And that's what a lot of, it's what Cohen did with Trevor Lawrence. It's what Mike McDowell did with Seattle's defense over the past 2 years. Is they've had to find a new way to make things work. They've had no other way. I mean, they have to stand out among other peers to even get the job. Like, their only prism that they're looking at it through is the current day's game. And Andy Reid's had so much success in the past, you can get to a point where you start chasing that and say, how do we make this work again? It worked for us for so long. How do we make it work again? And so that's why I say it's more about the age of the idea than it is the age of the person. And that, to me, is a major point of this Chiefs offseason.
How much of it, though, like, one of their starting offensive linemen, Zabel, he was pick 18. Emin Worry was pick 35 out of this most recent draft. Byron Murphy had a huge game in the Super Bowl. He was pick 16. Devin Witherspoon, your MVP, Sam, he was pick number 5. There is, and even their left tackle, pick 9, Charles Cross. I definitely think Mike McDonald's doing the right thing with the players. I think they've done a great job of managing the cap, Jeff, but is it, does this just like, hey, this is, to what Sam was talking about, the league is designed to do this. They drafted well with high picks. They ought to be good. Like, there's nothing, super secret about it. They found a good young coach with good schemes, and they've drafted well with high picks. You're supposed to be good at this point. The challenge begins now.
That's part of it, but certainly you have to have a coach to come in there and make it work. I mean, Pete Carroll was there for some of those guys who came in the door, and it was fading away fast, and again, other thing to remember too, I wanted to make this point earlier, was that Clint Kubiak was in his first year as OC. Like, Mike McDonald got rid of the guy he had before after last year and changed it up. And so I think younger guys aren't afraid to make those kind of changes, as well. They're this ain't working. I want somebody better. Now, granted, to Sam's point, it's because you haven't won a championship. But I do think there's more of an urgency to say, I want to get what I want going now. And Andy Reid used to be that guy too back in the day, by the way. And Sam makes a great point about the ideas. Andy was able to go into college football and take concepts to build what became Patrick Mahomes' offense. Doing that now, the stuff you take out of college is not working in the NFL the same way anymore. The pistol, the RPO, all that stuff, they figured it out. And so it used to be, you go back a few years ago, it was, the read option was the big thing, and people figured that stuff out. It's like having younger guys around allows you to have more creativity in the room, and a less of a willingness to rely on not just older ideas, but older coaches. You get stuck in your ways.
Well, I think the other point of that, because I think that's a good point, Jeff, because I think the other point of it is that when you've only been a head coach for a couple of years and you've been in the league for, Andy Reid's been in the league almost as long as like Mike McDonald's been around.
Yeah, been an adult.
And so part of that is like, look at how many relationships that Andy Reid has across the league. I think that does make it harder to fire people. I've known this guy's dad for 20 years. I've known him for ever since he was a little kid. And, Mike McDonald doesn't have that. I think that's easier to cut ties with people that you don't have this long history with. I mean, he waited a year too long on Bob Sutton. And by all accounts, a major reason he waited a year too long was because he'd been with him for a long time. He'd known him for a really long time. I think it's hard for Andy Reid to fire people. And look, that's not a bad quality in a person, but that is part of this job.
I will mention too, when you are going to the Super Bowl for 3 straight years, your candidate pool is down. This was the year that they had a chance to really go and change things up. They still haven't announced all their staff, but the wide receiver coach, they moved quickly. We heard that they had to move quickly to get Eric Bieniemy, right? That speaks more like, I don't think you had to move quickly to get Eric Bieniemy. I don't think anybody else was going to hire Eric Bieniemy to be the offense coordinator. He got one of his guys, and I'll state again, I think it makes the leash much shorter. Like, if you're just going to keep going for your guys and you're not out there exploring, looking for other things, you're just saying, hey, how we do it is better. Well, then you better prove it. Like, you don't get 2 or 3 years to keep doing what you're doing. And
they did switch the wide receiver coach, the running back coach, and we'll see. I mean, I still think it's possible they could have just an additional coach on staff, a different position, even. So I think there's
I'm
more
the running
changes
back coach
this
for
year.
Kansas City previously, though, too.
I think there's more changes this year than there's been
For sure,
in a while.
But how many great coaches who coach a long time end up having it end well? I mean, I think about Don Shula or Tom Landry or who else,
Almost
Chuck
none of them.
Noll. What?
Almost
They
none
all
of them.
they stay overstay their welcome, and then you get to the point where it's like, okay, it's time.
I've looked at that. That's why I started last year saying this is the time that somebody in the organization has to be watching Andy, because history tells us a slide is coming, and they don't see it. They don't want to admit it. They can't change it. It just happens. I don't know why. I don't know all the inner workings. Tom Landry bombed. Bill Belichick bombed. Chuck Noll bombed. Don Shula bombed.
Pete Carroll got fired.
Yeah. I mean, like pretty much even Mike Shanahan, who spawned a lot of the coaches now, it wasn't going great in Washington when they let him go. So I mean, Jimmy Johnson was mediocre with the Dolphins. He never really got that up and running at any kind of high level. I mean, no, that's what history tells us. I mean, there's a reason why these owners go for the younger coaches. Let's talk about the running back position. Jeff, like, can the Chiefs even cap-wise, get into the mix for running backs, or are the prices just going to be too much, right?
I think there's going to be a great demand. I mean, you've seen the last two teams win a championship with running backs holding, doing serious damage, or either in the postseason or in the championship game. I mean, in the championship, the Super Bowl. And so, I think it's a copycat league. You're going to have a lot of teams looking to have two strong running backs. Seattle, people forget Zach Charbonnet was the second half of that duo there. I mean, Kenneth Walker got the MVP, but they went on without a beat without Charbonnet. But Charbonnet is a really talented back. And so we went through some names on the morning show on your station, Soren, like the Tyler Algiers, the Breece Halls, the Kenneth Walkers. And, I think the numbers, whatever the value that they were throwing out was lower than I expected. Like most of it was in the $6 million, the $10 million range. I think a lot of these guys are going to get overpaid. I think there's going to be a lot of dudes out there getting paid, getting good paydays because people want to load up on running backs. And I think it's going to be hard to compete with some. To get a great one, to get a good one, it's going to be hard to compete with it.
Yeah, totally agree.
You and I are both
the market is just totally going to overcorrect here. They're 2 years too late, and it really at least a year too late on trying to solve this problem. And now you're in a bad spot because there's not going to be, I think Saquon Barkley last year for the Eagles, the year that the Eagles beat the Chiefs. So whether you want to call it last year now or 2 years ago now, he only occupied 1.5% of the salary cap. And for the last decade, somebody put this out there, and I wish I could remember who it was. I think it's a Locked On Cowboys writer that you might know, Jeff. But I wish I could credit him properly. But
we rattled it off. I thought we rattled it off on Tuesday.
Well, I was just gonna say a running back hasn't occupied more than 2% of the cap in 11 years or something like that. And so
it goes back to Marshawn Lynch. In 2013, who counted for 6% of the cap.
Yeah, and then they should have won again the next year, of course, but didn't. But this is the point that you don't want to be stuck in this spot where you're spending free agent dollars, what limited free agent dollars you have on this position. And this is why when the draft is deep, and it was a year ago, you had to do something about it. And I don't know that the solution is to pay Breece Hall $12 million a year.
I'll give it to you. I've got it here. I found it because this is something we were discussing as well. Here's the cap percentage. Kenneth Walker 0.9, Saquon Barkley 1.5, Pacheco 0.4, Pacheco 0.3, Cam Akers 0.8, Leonard Fournette with the Bucks 1.2, Damian Williams 0.9, Sony Michel 1, LeGarrette Blount 0.7, LeGarrette Blount 0.6, CJ Anderson 0.4, LeGarrette Blount 0.2, Marshawn Lynch 6.2. That's how far back you got to go. And with the cap at about $300 million, if you say 1.5%, it's been the highest. You can't pay more than $4.5 million based on that. And I think guys are going to be pricey. Tommy said, Algier, I think he is a guy that'd be a really good fit here. 1.8. He ain't going for 1.8.
No, it's not. I think if you go lower in the comments, I think that's the type of guy who might make sense. Is like a Rashard White type who's from Kansas City, went to center high.
Back or fall? Here we go. Yeah, right here.
I think that's that's the type of, like, you got to pair it with the draft pick. Like, what stood out about these two teams in the Super Bowl, both the running backs were drafted. They had one. They drafted another one.
Yep.
Both teams did that. They had a running back. They saw an opportunity and they drafted another one. Like, that's how you have to turn over this position. And those teams took higher than what you would like. They used second round picks on it, but still, I mean, there's third round running backs having a lot of success in the league. And the like I said, the Chiefs waited too long in last year's draft.
Yeah, it's 2 seconds for the Seahawks and a second and a fourth for the Pats, but a fourth that they've re-signed for good money in Ramondre Stevenson. And Javonte Williams had 1,000 yards and like 500 receiving for the Cowboys at $3 million. J.K. Dobbins was running well at like 2.7. The problem is they did sign a guy for $3 million.
Yeah.
People don't remember it. It's a guy that Curtis dubbed the rumor, Elijah Mitchell.
Was it 3? Was that the right price for that?
It was like 2.9, or he was more than Javonte Williams.
He went before Javonte Williams, right? Or Dowdle?
I don't know if he did or didn't.
I thought he was just 2 to 2.5, but yeah. 2.5, yeah. 2.5.
2.5. I mean, come on. What are we doing here? Really? Like, there were backs that were productive out there for that number. Yeah, I agree. I think it's going to be pricier than they want to admit. How about the pass rush? How does that got to change? I know Tommy had one of the comments earlier. I don't know if I can find it, but he was talking about getting DeMarcus Lawrence. Jeff, these are your numbers. Talking about DeMarcus Lawrence and Leonard Williams. 3 for 32.5 for DeMarcus Lawrence. Leonard Williams 3 for 64.5. They traded for him and then re-signed him. The Chiefs are paying Chris Jones 5 for $159 million.
Yep.
5 for 159. They have those two.
They've got an out in a couple of years.
Yeah.
They do, but there's outs on DeMarcus Lawrence and Williams to shorten those. But they're 3 for $97 million on those two, right? Like, there was. I think that the moral of the story is stop falling in love with your own guys.
Yep.
The Mike Dana contract's also, it's not giant, but he's got an $11 million cap hit for this year, and it's like, why?
Well, there's an opportunity to get out of that one too.
There is, but I mean, it's still,
you're still eating a couple million.
You are, but those are the guy. But what made you think? I know you can get out of it, but what made you think that this was like, we got to have this guy? That's my thing, Jeff. Like, I
agree. Yeah.
I said today, Jeff, tell me if this roster looks this way to you, because you look at all the rosters and have for a long time. This looks like a roster that coaches picked.
Yep.
Right? I got to have my guy. I got to have Mike Pennell. I got to have Derek Nottie. I mean, for all the great strengths of Steve Spagnuolo and Joe Cullen, I got to have Nottie. I got to have Pennell. I got to have, like, why? Why do you, what about these guys? Mike Dana, nice guy. I like Mike Dana a lot. I like Mike Dana being on the team, but for the 3-year deal with it feels like it's, I gotta have, like the coaches are like, we can't trust that we could possibly find anybody. Jack Cochran has a key to the city. Like, what am I missing on?
Well, the opposite part of that is the guys who you couldn't, even if the coaches, like Steve Spagnuolo loved Tyrann Mathieu. You just couldn't afford Tyrann Mathieu. The coach, Steve Spagnuolo, loved Justin Reid. All the coaches did. You just couldn't afford Justin Reid. They turned over that position just fine. Brian Cook had a terrific year this year. Justin Reid turned out to be a great replacement for Tyrann Mathieu. Like, you had the ability to turn over the position. So part of that is learning the lesson of your own successes.
True.
Yeah. Well, and it's also, and this is, as much as I love Spagnuolo and what he's done and respect his career achievements, I mean, he has a history of saying, here's my system, here's how I want to play it. Here are the guys who fit into it, and then the guys who do what I say and do it well, I trust them. And anybody who can't do that, I'm not playing them. And so I think Seattle says, we got some dogs up here. Go play. You 4 guys, get the quarterback, do what it takes, and we'll figure the rest out on the back end. And I think there's something to be said for not having to rely so much on a choreographed defense and really making sure you're picking players who individually are talented guys who can get it done. I mean, Leonard Williams was a top 5 pick in the league or top 10 pick. DeMarcus Lawrence had a lot of great years in Dallas. Byron Murphy, I think he was a first-round pick, wasn't he? I think he was like an 18 or 20.
Yeah, he was like 12,
overall.
I think.
Yeah. And the other guy, Hall, looks like fucking like Frankenstein out there running around. He's like he's like a monster in his own right. How about the guy who sacked Drake May, second sack of the game? I didn't even know his name. He just ran right through the center, kept the center right here, and then sacked the quarterback.
He sacked the guard too.
Hit a guard. Like, get one of those guys.
Get one of those guys.
Yeah, I mean,
I think. Look, first of all, I think Seattle's defense is pretty complicated. They seem to like give players the option to choose whether to blitz, like kind of on their own based on what they're seeing. I do think there's some complication there, but I do think that the point on there's more guys out there than they realize who can run their stuff. I mean, they brought Nick Bolton back. Nick Bolton is a very talented player. Soren, you've made this point. I think if you had a better defensive line, you get more value out of Nick Bolton than what you're getting. But you're paying him $15 million. You're paying Drew Tranquill a lot of money. Like I mentioned, the safety situation. I mean, they paid Anthony Hitchens, and they kept playing Anthony Hitchens over and over again until guess what? When the Chiefs were done with him, he was out of the league. I mean, they've had a lot of these guys as far as, hey, what can we do if we don't have this guy? And it's like, teach the next guy. The next guy to take that guy's job because he's probably younger and more athletic and has the ability to do it.
Yeah. I mean, I think they got to start having stop falling in love with their own guys, start being willing to, teach some people and coach some people into your scheme, or maybe dumb down the scheme for a little while to bring them up to speed. I mean, they have really been trying to keep as many people as they possibly could, and that is not good. They've gotten old. That's a lesson that has been taught in the NFL time and time again, and they've got to get better at it. I mean,
beggars.
Remember Jared Reed when he was here? Who was playing well in Seattle before and after? Yeah. That's the mystery to me. Like, he couldn't do anything here.
He had a good second half of the year. He was terrible for the first half, but I think when it comes to the defensive line, and this feeds right into this, is like beggars can't be choosers. You just need talent. Yeah. You need to add talent there. It can't be a specific type of this guy needs to have this length or this size or this arm length. Like beggars can't be choosers. You need talent on the defensive line, and that's multiple guys. And wherever they fit, it's your jobs as coaches. That's why you get paid as coaches. You make it fit.
I will stick up a little bit for the arm length. I mean, did you see left tackle for the Patriots? I mean, there is an element. Part of the talent is the arm length. Part of the talent.
It is, but the Chiefs have sacrificed speed on the edge in preference for the arm length.
I do agree. I mean, I think you can get caught up in the numbers, but I mean, like this Jason said this, and I think this is a popular thought. This is why you need a GM with balls, not a puppet of the coaching staff. It doesn't work like that. Like that's not how organizations work, right? Nobody goes in and says, hey, asshole, this is what you're going to do. It happens nowhere. And it's definitely not going to happen as long as Andy Reid is the coach. I mean, it's just isn't. So if that's what you think is the problem, and I do think part of the personnel issue is a coaching issue. It's like them wanting their guys, right? Or them wanting their types. I'm fully confident that Brett Veach and his staff can find a wideout that's 6'2", 220 in the draft, okay? But they took Xavier Worthy and they moved up for him. And that wasn't because Andy Reid went, not really my type, okay? Andy Reid clearly signed off on that move, and it was a mistake to this point, right?
It is, but like, aren't you also like foolish as a GM if you're not asking the experts in your own building? Like, if you're not asking Spags, hey, what do you think of this guy? If you're not asking Dave Merritt, well, hey, what do you think of this cornerback? Like, use your resources.
Well, that's where down the road, like, was that, okay, we're taking Felix Anudike Uzomah, and Steve Spagnuolo's like, not my guy, not going to play. I mean, I've talked to Carl Peterson a lot. That's always been the thing. Like, if you take a guy that the coach says, I absolutely don't think this is the right guy, he's not going to play him. So you've got to make it, you've got to come to an agreement on things. But I think along the way, you've got to say, well, who's been right and who's been wrong?
Yeah.
Like if we keep giving this guy, these types of guys to this coach and they suck, we're not listening to that coach anymore. He's either out or we'll pick the guys, you coach him. That's where they got to make the adjustments along the way. So we'll see. We'll talk more about the decisions they got to make in-house on the Friday episode. Remember, you can support the Red, Gold, and Bold by supporting our great sponsors. Gann Asphalt and Concrete, free consultations, no commissions. In-house crews, a written warranty comes with every project. They've been solving parking lot parking lot problems for more than 30 years in Kansas City. If you need help, go to GannAsphalt.com. One contractor, all things parking lot. It's Gann Asphalt and Concrete. If you've been hurt in an accident, Northland Injury Law, more than 40 years they've been serving Kansas City. Voted the #1 accident lawyers, 5-star rating on Google. They are your personal injury lawyers, whether it's in an accident or, like I said, at the office. Text HURT to 22222 if you have a case, or call 816-400-HURT. For Jeff Chadiha, for Sam McDowell, I'm Soren Petro saying thank you very much for joining us here on the Red, Gold, and Bold.